And now I'd like to turn over the microphone to our guest speaker this evening, Steve Myers. Will you please welcome him?
Thank you, Barb, and thank you, Longmont Public Library, and thank you guys for coming. So, you guys want to hear about the Great Plains, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, are you sure? Like you've heard, it's boring, right? And it's flat, and there's nothing but corn and cows, and oh yeah, blizzards. I mean, you've heard from the experts, right? You've heard from that guy that once drove I-70 in Kansas and came back and said there was nothing there, don't go there. He would know, right? So he's the expert. So yeah, it's boring. But you guys are cool. You guys are different. I think you guys know that it's not boring, or you suspect that maybe it's not boring. And so you came out here tonight, and thank you for being here. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Great Plains in general, and I'm going to talk about my group and what we're trying to do, and our efforts. So first of all, my name is Steve Myers, and I'm the founder of Great Plains Trail Alliance. Basically, our goal is to create a long-distance National Scenic Trail, kind of like an Appalachian Trail or Pacific Crest Trail, but in a little different part of the country. So I'm going to talk a little bit first about the Great Plains itself, and then talk a little bit about our efforts and our project. So, first of all, the Great Plains. This is a map of, this is the EPA puts out these maps. These are their eco-regions of North America. And this is level 1. So this is the broad overview. Think kind of 6th grade textbook. This gives you the big regions of the continent. And you can see in the middle there, that brown region in the center of the continent, that's the Great Plains. And the Great Plains is characterized by grassland as opposed to forested, and generally drier than other areas. That's the basics of what the Great Plains is all about. Just as an aside, the EPA puts out these maps, and this is level 1. But whatever area you're interested in, they go to level 4. So you can kind of dive down into very, very detailed areas of the eco-region of that spot, based on flora and fauna and climate and things like that. So it's kind of a neat thing. But there they are, there's the Great Plains. The boundaries of the Great Plains are, on the west side, essentially the Rocky Mountain front. Once you hit the Rocky Mountains, you're no longer in the Great Plains. The eastern boundary is a little more guesswork there. There's no great agreement on that. This is a map of 50 different published versions of where the Great Plains boundary. So these are books or whatever that people have written on the Great Plains, and then they've included a map, and then this is where the boundary lies. You can see that western edge. Yeah, they're pretty much everyone's there. It's the Rocky Mountain front. In the east, no one knows, right? It's who knows. It could be here, it could be there. Some go all the way to Illinois. Some touching Kentucky there. There's not a lot of agreement on where the eastern boundary of the plains is. A little bit later, I will give you my interpretation of where I think it is, but it's also kind of cool that it's wherever you decide it is, I guess. Generally speaking, the further west you go, the drier it gets, and you're into shorter grasses. The further east you go, the more moisture, you're into taller grasses. Interesting thing about the Great Plains, and I've given you a map of Europe here. There's no real parallel in the continent of Europe. Africa, yes. South America, yes. Asia, yes. Australia, yes. Antarctica, no. Europe, there are no major grasslands in Europe. Now, if you get to the eastern part of Europe, you get into the Ukraine, it's a little bit, kind of that steppe region, and it's kind of like that, but not on the same scale as we have in North America. I bring this up because when Europeans arrived and they kind of came across the North American continent, there was a lot of parallels. They had mountains and coasts and forests in Europe, and these were places that, even though flora and fauna might have been a little different, they recognized what they were seeing. When they got to the plains, they didn't know what to make of the plains. This was a brand new thing. And so they were either really inspired and kind of blown away by it. Actually, they were blown away no matter what. This is Eliza Steele in 1840. A world of grass and flowers stretched around me, rising and falling in gentle undulations, as if an enchanter had struck the ocean swell and it was at rest forever. Or they were just like, what is this thing? This is 300 years earlier. Francisco Vasquez de Coronado, sorry, I gotta go over here to read it. I reached some plains so vast that I did not find their limit anywhere I went, although I traveled over them for more than 300 leagues, with no more landmarks than if we had been swallowed up by the sea. There was not a stone, nor a bit of rising ground, nor a tree, nor a shrub, nor anything to go by. So they were totally blown away. This was written as he was crossing the panhandle of Texas, and that is an area that is absolutely table flat. It's called Llano Estacado. So that's 1540, a Spaniard coming through. So they didn't know what to make of the plains. Consequently, Europeans, when they were cruising through North America, didn't stay. This is a map of National Scenic Trails, which also includes National Historic Trails. Some good examples are the Lewis and Clark Trail, the California Trail, the Oregon Trail, the Mormon Trail, the Santa Fe Trail, all of these places that started further east and were looking to get further west. So they crossed the plains and did not stay because they really weren't sure what this landscape was really all about. Eventually, they did stay, and it happened a little bit later in history, towards the later 1800s, as opposed to the earlier 1800s. And when they did, things began to change. The wild landscape that was there began to change. This is a quote from Aldo Theodore. What 1,000 acres of compass plant looked like as they tickled the bellies of the buffalo is a question never again to be answered, and perhaps not even asked. So, landscapes changed, and there's always a sense of loss with the Great Plains. My presentation is not about what has been lost, and we can talk about the bison, we can talk about the native grasses, we can talk about other losses. My presentation is going to be about what is still there. What can you go see? What can you experience in the Great Plains? This is from 2004. It is so easy, too easy, to be swept away by mountain and ocean vistas. A prairie, on the other hand, requests the favor of your closer attention. It does not divulge itself to mere passers-by. So if we're going to find out what is there, we're going to have to get off I-70. We're going to have to get off I-80 or I-90 in South Dakota. Get off the secondary highways. Get onto some back roads, some dirt roads, and some trails to see what is actually there. So this is sort of the idea that I came up with way back when I was in college, which now feels like a really long time ago. And when I was in college, I grew up in Minnesota, by the way, and I was looking for something to do in the summer, and I was in the college sort of, commons area, and I saw this poster, and the poster looked like this. That is the Tetons in Wyoming, Grand Teton National Park. And I walked by that poster and I said, that's it, I'm going there. I don't know where that is, but I'm going there. So this is before, internet or anything like that. They had these little pieces of paper you could rip off the poster, and I ripped one of those things off and scribbled my name and got myself a summer job in the Tetons, and the greatest experiences of my life, and fell in love with the mountains like everybody. I'm here talking about the Great Plains, but I fell in love with the mountains too. So I spent a number of summers in the Tetons. First year I flew there. In the second year, managed to borrow my parents' car for the summer and drove. Now, in between the state of Minnesota and the state of Wyoming is the state of South Dakota. Now, there are really two states here. And if you talk to anybody who is from South Dakota, they'll tell you that there's East River and there's West River. And the river is the Missouri River, cutting the state basically in half. And on the east side, as I was driving, it looks just like Minnesota. It's rolling farm country and pleasantly rural. And nothing was really catching my attention that much. And then I crossed the Missouri River. And that's when things began to change. The bluffs on that side are huge. If you've ever been, across that, even on the interstate, you get up to the top, trees are suddenly gone, there's distant buttes on the horizon, and it's a totally different landscape, and suddenly you're in the West. You're no longer in the Midwest, but you're in the West. And that to me is the eastern boundary of the Great Plains. When you suddenly feel and you realize that, wow, I've got enough elevation, and the air feels drier, and it suddenly doesn't feel like the Midwest anymore, it feels like the West. So I was kind of blown away by that openness and that sky and that sense of space. We kind of fell in love with that, didn't know what to make of it either, to be honest with you. Even though I grew up in Minnesota, I went to the mountains. I like to say that, when I went to the mountains, yeah, they wowed me a lot, but I had also seen pictures of mountains growing up, so I kind of knew what to expect. I had no idea about the Great Plains. I had never seen pictures of it. I didn't know what was there, even though it was in the neighboring state. So I was kind of blown away with this thing that wasn't the mountains, wasn't the lakes of Minnesota, was something completely different. And I started to think about, well, how do I experience this? I was in my 20s. I wanted to do stuff. I want to go climbing. I want to go kayaking. I want to do anything dangerous and big and all that stuff, right? And I'm in the Great Plains. I'm like, well, I want to do something amazing in the Great Plains. How do I do it? And I was also learning at the time about long distance trails such as the Appalachian Trail or Pacific Crest Trail, and I kind of meshed the two ideas together. Well, what if you made a big long trail through this part of the country? Wouldn't that be amazing? So that was kind of the basic idea. I kind of think of recreation as you can kind of go small, medium, or big. You can go small and take a hike and have a picnic, and you can do that almost anywhere. Nothing wrong with that. You can go medium and kind of camp out and take a longer hike, or you can have a big adventure, and you can do that in the mountains. You can do that on the ocean. I wanted to find a way to do it on the Great Plains. So that's the idea. That's kind of where it started. A bunch of time passed. The idea never went away. It stayed with me. And I kind of tinkered around on it for a while, but I never really, got too serious about it. Until about 2010, and I started researching it, started looking into it a little more seriously. And this route started to emerge, basically taking the little gems that are there in terms of national parks, national monuments, state parks, other public lands, just kind of trying to find all those pieces and then trying to connect the dots is the idea of the route, which at this point includes the already existing trails and connecting it with back roads as well. So, and we're talking about, in a lot of cases, roads that might only see 2 or 3 cars in a day, if that. So you're going to see a little bit of that here coming up. This is essentially an overview of the route, with the probable exception that it's not going to end in Montana. It's probably going to be North Dakota, just for logistical reasons. So this is a somewhat earlier version of it. Nothing against Montana. It's awesome, but it's a little big and a little far away. North Dakota is a little more user-friendly for that piece of it. So the trail, the route that we have designed so far, and I'll talk a little bit more about it and about what we're trying to do with it, is 2,200 miles from Guadalupe Peak in Texas to the Canada border. It crosses 3 national parks, 3 national monuments, 10 national forests, 5 state high points, and 15 state parks. So there's a lot of things to see in there. And I'm going to hit some of the highlights now, kind of talk about some of the places along the way. This is Guadalupe Mountains National Park in Texas. And this is near the peak. So it's the highest point in Texas. It's a state high point. Probably technically not on the Great Plains, but it's real close. And I couldn't resist because I wanted to mirror the Appalachian Trail, which ends on Katahdin, the state high point of Maine. So this is a state high point of Texas and a national park, and it's right there. So yeah, why not? And you can certainly see the Great Plains from the top. It's a great place. If you've never been to that national park, I highly recommend it. It's not very crowded. It's pretty sweet. Cool. Going north, this is southern New Mexico. More deserty through here, a little scrubbier, a little more deserty, but still some great spots and great scenery through New Mexico. Although, and this is, we'll talk a little bit about some of the issues with the trail, but New Mexico is the hardest state to deal with in terms of thinking of a through hiker who can cover 25 miles in a day if they're really good and in shape and top form. In some cases, you just can't get to the next town or to the next legal place to spend the night due to private lands or things like that in some of these areas in New Mexico. So there's some logistical challenges in there, and we'll talk a little bit about how we got around that when we had our first through hiker. Continuing north, this is also New Mexico. This is Capulin Volcano National Monument. If you haven't been there, it's only about 5 hours away. Maybe 6, might be 6 hours away. Not too far from Raton as you cross the border into New Mexico. It's a national monument, volcanic area. beautiful, beautiful stuff in there. And that's in the park. That's a trail kind of heading up the volcano there. Yes, the Great Plains has volcanoes. This is heading north again. I should mention, I skipped Oklahoma there. It does hit Black Mesa, the high point of Oklahoma as well. And then into Colorado. This is down in Comanche National Grassland and down in the Purgatory River Canyon. That's about 4 hours from here. Fantastic. Down near La Junta, south of La Junta. And good established trails down there. Lots of places to go hiking. Very cool, and dinosaur tracks as well. Heading north, this is in our backyard. This is about 2 hours away. This is Pawnee Buttes, Pawnee National Grassland in east of Fort Collins, 60 miles or so. A couple of established trails there. Fantastic place to just take a day. There's typically hardly anybody there. Some cool things to see. Big 400-foot sandstone buttes. It's awesome. This is also not far away. About 4 hours from here. This is Nebraska, which is becoming basically my favorite place. This is Fort Robinson State Park, just outside of the town of Crawford. These beautiful, sort of bluffs on top of the hill. Lots of trails there. There's actually a wilderness area there called Soldier Creek Wilderness. And as an aside, one of the things doing everything I've done with this trail is the history that's out there is unbeatable. I've had such a blast learning about the history of the Great Plains. This particular state park is where they killed the crazy horse, and there's a little monument there for that, and that's worth checking out. And if you don't know the story behind that, well worth reading. There's historical, amazing history everywhere in the Great Plains. I like to say that if you want to learn American history, go to Boston and Philadelphia and the Great Plains, because there's so much that happened there, and just phenomenal. So that's been a great joy of mine, learning it as I went along. The trail goes through the Black Hills in South Dakota. This is a little north of that. This is in Custer National Forest, in the sort of northwest corner of South Dakota. A little sliver of another great battle there, and some great history in that area as well. Can't think of the name of it right now, but there's some more awesome history in that part. And this is just right here, Theodore Roosevelt National Park in North Dakota. So I'm hoping that you're seeing a theme here in some of these highlight photos of the trail, that the Great Plains are not flat. They are not flat. Yes, there are places in the Great Plains that are flat, for sure. The stereotype, has some examples to get the stereotype, but generally speaking, it's a very, topographically interesting landscape all over the place, in all of these places. So, no big peaks, no 14ers, but lots of interesting terrain. In 2015, a writer contacted me and wanted to do a story on it for Backpacker magazine. I'm not going to go into all the details of that trek, but we did about a 100-mile stretch of it. It's in the June 2018 issue of Backpacker magazine. But I did want to mention this spot because it was so cool. This is our last camping night of that particular adventure. And this is in Oglala National Grassland in Nebraska. And that was just a phenomenal place to kind of spend the night. So just the sense of space and sort of the grandeur of sort of being there. Hard to get on a photograph, so I do have a short little video. It's maybe 20 seconds. That is taken right sort of. You'll see the guy taking that particular picture in there, and I'm hoping the sound catches the peacefulness of it too, and you hear some birds and things like that. I gotta click it to the next one. That's me pointing it at the ground. It gets better. So hopefully that gives you an idea of what it's like to be there. It's one of the best camping nights I've ever had. That's fantastic. In 2016, actually before that, but a guy named Luke Jordan contacted me. He's a long distance hiker. He had hiked the North Country Trail, which is a national scenic trail. It's the longest national scenic trail in the United States. It runs from the middle of North Dakota all the way to Vermont. It's 4,600 miles. He became the either fourth or fifth person to ever through hike it, meaning that he didn't do it by section, so he didn't just do some and then do some other stuff. He did it day after day after day after day after day until he was done. So 4,600 miles. I had heard about him because I was kind of tracking his so he became kind of a little bit famous in the hiker community. And he contacted me and he's like, I want to be the first person to ever hike the Great Plains Trail. And I was like, no way, we're not ready. And then my next sentence was, yeah, let's do it. Because we'll never be ready. So if we wait to be ready, nothing's ever going to happen. So in 2016, we got together. He helped me fine-tune the route, and we got him some vehicle support down in New Mexico. And you saw in that other video, we also had vehicles for our trek for the magazine article, just to kind of help things out. And so I'm also not going to give his entire story because he kind of hits the speaking circuit occasionally as well. And he's coming out with a book, so but you should know that it was a phenomenal experience, and he had all kinds of just wonderful things happen with people he met on the trail and situations he got out of by, what they call trail angels who show up. Now, in the Appalachian Trail, as thousands of people use that thing every year, trail angels are kind of like a known thing. No one had ever done this before, and trail angels showed up at the right time to give him a ride in a blizzard and things like that. So it's a pretty phenomenal story. He is at the top of Guadalupe Peak, so he's at mile 0.0.
Click it.
Click it?
Oh, I thought, never mind.
No, okay. So that's the top of Guadalupe Peak. At the very, very start of this hike, and I'm just going to give you a couple little shots of him. Here he is in New Mexico. This is also one of the roads connecting various things. And I also have one more short little video. I got a chance to, help him out a little bit, and so I got a chance to hike with him a little bit, and this is about 20 seconds of Luke Jordan on the first ever hike of the Great Plains Trail. Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, that part's flat. And it is. But honestly, even that road, it didn't take long for that to kind of drop down into a gully and come back up, and it wasn't like that all the day long. There was still even quite a bit of berry terrain out there. And the thing you can't quite see there too is we also have a sweet view of some very distant snow-capped peaks in the southern area of New Mexico there too. So there was good scenery out there. Here we are in Santa Rosa, New Mexico, at the Blue Hole. So it's kind of a funny little place where apparently this really deep place where people practice scuba diving and things like that, and get certified and things like that. So we didn't do any of that. But as he swung through Colorado, he stayed at my house, and I picked him up at the end of the day and dropped him off in the morning to start his hike. So this is him starting his hike for the day. This is not too far from here. This is about as close to Longmont as we can get, and still be on our route. This is Luke Jordan at that place where I showed you the first video, that amazing campsite in Nebraska, which is on public land, is on national grassland. He also had a fantastic experience there. Met some people who brought him like pizza and randomly and like $20, and it was just incredible. And I think it was the mayor of one of the towns like flagged him down and was like, just wanted to meet him, and just cool stuff like that. So pretty cool stuff. And he did it. This is him at the international U.S.-Canada border, North Dakota and Saskatchewan, at the very end of the trail. So it was pretty remarkable. He did it in 90 days. He had a federal job and was able to take a 90-day furlough just on his own, and then just made every day count and knocked out about 25 to 30 miles a day. So it's good to be 20, 30.
What was the total mileage for that?
2,200.
21.
So my group is called Great Plains Trail Alliance. We're a nonprofit that was formed in 2012. We have a all-volunteer board. I'm going to talk a little bit about where we are, what we've done, and kind of where we're trying to get to. This is 4/5 of the board. From left to right, that's Luke Jordan. And then me, Kevin Purdy, who's local, who lives in Louisville. And Bob Parr is a professor in Illinois. And just so I got to get everybody right. So that's Drew Smith. He's also local, lives in Boulder. 2018 was a really good year for us, mostly because we created our very own first section of brand new trail. in Oglala National Grasslands. So this is out near a place called Toadstool Geologic Park. This trail did not exist before. We got to know the rangers, and we talked to them about, boy, wouldn't it be great if we could get a trail, you know, in this area? And the rangers said, yeah, that would be great. And it happened. They routed it out. Trails out in that area oftentimes you follow posts. So you'll go to post and then you look for the next post, kind of like cairns, and then follow it through the grasslands. And we created about 2 or 3 miles of our very own trail, and they signed it for us and put our name on it, and it was really, really cool. And it was two things, you know, it solved 2 issues. One, they got some more trails for their own little local area, and it also cut off about 5 miles of road walking for our long distance trail. Now you might be thinking, in 2,200 miles, what's 5 miles? Everything. Everything. If you're hiking all day, every day, 25 or 30 miles, and you suddenly find out you don't have to do a couple, it's fantastic. So it puts you on a trail instead of a dirt road. So our goal is to, over time, increase trail miles and decrease road miles. It will never all be on trail. It will use roads, but so do almost all of the national scenic trails. So it's not that big of a deal. And you have to kind of go into the towns and so you can resupply and things like that. So that's part of the process as well. So that was our big event in 2018, which we're pretty excited about. There's a lot of other opportunities out there that we know about. It's just going to take time to make it happen. But things just like that, where we know we need a trail here, we can build one here, we can build it here in public land areas. And so we're hoping to do that over time and continue to make progress that way. Gonna end with, no, I'm gonna back it out, sorry. 2019. 2019, before I get to that last one. Our goal for the future, because we realize that 2,200 miles is incredibly long and it's very daunting, we're trying to scale, we're keeping that vision, of course, but we're scaling down the initial piece of it, and we're calling it the pilot trail, and it's about 250 miles. Something that can be done, you know, in a much shorter period of time, and is more, for lack of a better word, user-friendly. So it's where a through hiker, in theory, could do a series of days without ever having to worry about a vehicle, could get to towns, could get to public lands, could get to campgrounds, could get to things like that. So we're calling that our pilot trail. We're going to try to put out a data book in 2019, which will detail kind of where to go, where to start, what's there, just real simple, and because we want to get people to use it. The trail won't happen unless it has users, and 2,200 miles eliminates a lot of people from using it, even though, you know, you can certainly do a small piece of it. But a 250-mile trail might get enough users to create, for lack of a better term, a trail community where they can talk about their experiences, they can talk about what they did, what was awesome, what was horrible, what to avoid, what to make sure you see, and maybe some kind of online forum. And then, if we can do that, the idea is it'll be a lot easier to start adding on to it north and south to eventually get to the full trail. So that's kind of our sort of approach as we go forward. 2018 marked the 50-year anniversary of the signing of the National Scenic Trails Act by President Lyndon Johnson. So he's standing there on the right. The person to his left standing there is Stuart Udall. He's the uncle of former Colorado Senator Mark Udall, very big champion of conservation and of trails and things like that. And I love this picture because where are they looking? They're looking right at the Great Plains Trail, absolutely right on it. So it's as if they're saying, you know, there ought to be a line right about here. And so that's our goal. Our goal is to one day, this is probably a long ways in the future, we're taking a long view, but to one day be, you know, part of that map as a national scenic trail or some variation of that, so that more Americans, not just you guys, know that the Great Plains is not boring. Are there any questions?
Being from Oklahoma, and you left us out, why did you move the trail to the west like that? Because we're kind of hugging the Rocky Mountains there versus coming straight up from Texas to North Dakota, right in the middle.
So the question is why not a little bit further east? So there are definitely opportunities, you know, further east, like Caprock in Texas, Palo Verde, those mountains in Oklahoma, the Wichita Mountains, is that right? The Sand Hills in Nebraska, the Badlands in South Dakota. There's places that we didn't connect, but generally speaking, it was because it was either too far in between, and we couldn't quite make the leap. It was just further mileage, so these areas tended to have more opportunities. We kind of looked at low-hanging fruit, and the low-hanging fruit is public land. We're not even thinking about private land. I mean, that just doesn't even enter my mind. That's why they have roads. So, you know, so these were easier to connect parcels of public land, whether they're state parks or whatever. So
it would be mostly private in Oklahoma.
Right, and same with that northern panhandle of Texas as well. So a little bit trickier area, although some great stuff in there for sure, without a doubt. Other questions? Yeah.
Can you bike it?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm talking about hiking a lot because if a through hiker can do it, a biker can do it.
Yeah.
So, and in fact, yeah, absolutely. And in fact, biking it eliminates a number of problems in terms of covering enough mileage in a day to get to a resupply point for a campground or something like that. So there's a lot of interest in biking it, or certainly biking parts of it or things that are that. And there's every single bit of it is bikeable, I think, except for you'd have to reroute in some of the national parks because you're not allowed to bike on trails, but you can be on the roads in national parks. So there would be some rerouting, but absolutely, yeah.
Wondering if there are any convenient connections using parts of rails for trails, and also wondering dark sky opportunities.
Yeah, definitely. The rails to trails is interesting. You know, if you go back to that map I had earlier, so many of the rails cross the Great Plains, going from, Chicago to wherever. And so not a ton go north-south. There is one rail trail that we use in Nebraska, but it only runs 3 miles. But that's okay, we'll take it. And there's a few other spots in New Mexico. We know of an opportunity that if we can figure that one out, that'll be awesome because it runs a good 15 or 20 miles, cuts off a ton of, and it's an abandoned railroad, and I think Rails to Trails is on that. And dark skies, absolutely, yeah. That spot in Nebraska was, the stars were amazing, so that's another advantage of being out there on the plains.
Is that a picture of a hiker on the trail?
On your brochure.
The Contour Tunnel. Is that the Nicholson Trail?
That is the Nicholson Trail. Yep, yep, that is the Nicholson Trail. Yes.
Can you discuss the logistical challenges related to drinking water availability?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one of the big challenges is water. So, and that's one of the big reasons why we're going with that 250-mile pilot trail, because that is, in theory, a thru hiker should be able to carry enough water on that piece to be able to do it. Now, if you're going to do the whole thing, you know, vehicle support is one option. Another option is water caches. You know, drop-offs. You know, people do that a lot on the Appalachian Trail and things like that. But again, going back to the pilot trail, if we can create the trail community, our goal is that we can solve some of these things by getting local people involved. When Luke Jordan did his hike, we had local people who were interested in the trail do water caches for them, and things like that. So if there becomes enough interest in it, those problems can be solved by, for lack of a better term, trail angels, because they may want to get involved in caching water or things like that. So in those remote areas, though, it would probably have to be like a cache system, because if you're hiking, you can't carry that cache. Yeah.
Where will the 250-mile?
Oh, great question. Yeah, I forgot to tell you. Scotts Bluff National Monument to Fairview State Park in South Dakota. So that's the northern end of the. So that follows the Centennial Trail, which is a 100-mile trail through the Black Hills, and then follows and then goes through western Nebraska and ends in Scotts Bluff, or if you were going the other way. So.
Can you talk a little bit about the wildlife you might see along this?
Oh yeah, awesome. So my mind immediately jumped to pronghorn. We saw a ton of pronghorns, so whole groups of them out in some of those open areas, and they are really spectacular to watch. If you know anything about them, they're the fastest land animal in North America, and second in the world only to the cheetah. And it is kind of amazing to watch them run. So that's one that kind of jumps to mind. There's good bird watching out there. You know, bison are there, but they tend to be on, you know, bison ranches. Obviously the wild herds are gone, but bison ranches are kind of a thing, so you see them from time to time. In the domesticated variety, cows are another issue. A lot of open range out there. Some fences, but a lot of open range, and so you kind of have to be on your toes. You know, when you're going through there. You know, we didn't have any issues, but you know, you have to keep an eye out on those bulls. So that's, you know, something to keep in mind in some of those real you know, out of the way spots.
Wondering how much of your research has involved paper maps and documentation versus GIS data and Google Earth and other satellite images and you know, old school versus, you know, modern technology.
I'm incredibly old school. So me personally, I'm horrible with all of that stuff, all of that modern technology stuff. I do have people that have helped me out. And we do have a map online that uses GIS, and you can kind of dive in and check things out. And it's something I want to get better at. I want to be able to do more with that, because I know that that's the future. But most of my initial stuff was all, you know, all on the Lorem Atlases and getting out there and checking it out. I spent a fair amount of time just driving around and seeing where it could maybe go. And then Luke Jordan helped me out by using some of the GIS stuff and using, kind of fine tuning some of those areas. So it's been a little bit of both, for sure.
Is there a fee to use the trail?
No, because it's all established trails. So I guess the only fees would be as you're going into national parks. But everything that is out there is just kind of, you're either on the road or on an established trail. So.
And what, in terms of the time of year, it's awfully hot out there every day.
Right. So summer's not a good idea, but that is kind of okay because there's a lot of other things to do in summer. So Luke Jordan did a northbound hike, and he started on Valentine's Day in Texas and finished in about the middle of May at the North Dakota-Canada border. Your other option would be, if you're going to do the entire thing, would be to do a southbound in, say, starting at the Canada border, say like mid-August, late August, and ending in Texas maybe Thanksgiving, or something like that would certainly be doable. And that one's up for grabs. That's never been done. Something to think about.
Giving a blizzard in March, I might pass it.
Yeah, when he first talked to me, he was like, I want to do it. I want to go northbound. I was like, oh, that's not the way I do it, but sure, I would do that, So, and then I get asked a lot, if I hike the whole thing, the answer is no. I have hiked, a couple 100 miles of it. I intend to do more, obviously. I know every inch of it, but, I'm creating the whole trail. That's my long distance hike. Really. It's taken me a lot longer than 3 months. Yeah.
How many pair of shoes did that hiker go through at this 200 miles?
Definitely at least a couple. And a couple pairs of pants and some belts and he blew out a few things. Yeah. And he got in what they call the gumbo. If you're familiar with the mud out there, the term is gumbo. And you can get stuck pretty easily, whether on foot or on a tractor, it doesn't matter.
How does that 2,200 miles compare to the Appalachian and the Pacific Crest Trail?
I think the Appalachian, I'm sort of guessing here, is around 2,000 or just under. And Pacific Crest Trail is in that same general, give or take 100. I can't remember exactly.
That's what.
Other questions? Thank you guys for coming.